Good morning, everybody. It's Ian Corzine, your social media lawyer. Today, we're talking about 10 things you absolutely can't say on YouTube. And I named this video 10 things, but there's many dozens, if not hundreds of things you can't say on YouTube. And I got the kind of the impetus for this topic by reviewing YouTube's new misinformation community guidelines. Now, I say new, they started this process back in May 20th, I think, of 2020. And then they can, every couple of days or weeks, they continue to edit them, make them very oddly specific. Sometimes you're reading the rules and you're like, is this referring to a specific individual in our society? So they're kind of fun rules to go through. There's errors in them. It's so surprising. Sometimes I go through the rules and I find errors. You think that the lawyers and people like that on YouTube would get that stuff cleared up, but they haven't. So today we're going to take you through the 10 things you can't say to YouTube, maybe even 100 things you can't say on YouTube. And we're going to try to make it simple so that you can take this stuff in and then consider it when you make your next video that's going to go viral out there. So let's get started. Let me get my comment section up. Let's say hi to some people here. We got Just Dude. Good to see you, Just Dude. We also got Anthony Goodley. I absolutely love what your comment. I saw this before the show started. It's like the roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let the blank burn. Yes, it's very much like that. And then I also love that Mr. Vigia is here. Kim's here. Kim Leeming's here. It says hi all. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. We are going to have a great weekend, despite these things that we can't say on YouTube. We're going to go out there. We're going to create some great videos. I know that I'm going to be working hard this week on some new videos to put out. So let's start this thing. Let me share the screen. Excuse me, my voice. Let's move it up to this. So first thing, number 10 on the list of things you can't say on YouTube is, it's interesting because you think that this would be something that would fall within the vagaries of free speech, but you can't publish hacked information about a political candidate or leader on a YouTube video. So if you're one of those guys that likes to do newsjacking or do various topics about the current news, and maybe you have a source and you would like to publish some information that you got from a source, maybe it's hacked, maybe it's not, just understand that you cannot do a YouTube video about information on a political leader that allegedly could be hacked. Now, what's very interesting about this is that there's no provision in the rules about other hacked information. So just so you know, someone can hack into Apple computer or a makeup brand, and they can make up all sorts of, makes all sorts of videos on this hack. But it's really important for you to understand that when it comes to political leaders, hacked information, there's no definition in the rules of what constitutes hacked. So hacked could be someone literally breaking into a computer system. Someone could derivative, in other words, they got this information from someone who got it from a hacker. There's no clarity on that. So just so you know, be careful. If you have any hacked information, you're not going to be able to put it on YouTube. Let's move on to our number 9 thing that you can absolutely not say on YouTube. And that is wrong subtitles. Now, I don't mean, you made a mistake on your subtitles. It really means if you're putting up subtitles with the intent to inflame, to make people angry. So you might, in this picture, I have the picture here of President Obama. You put up President Obama's speech and then you translate it into a different language, let's say French, but you purposely make errors to make it sound like he's saying something that he isn't. Maybe you're trying to inflame the public against him or something like that. That is a big no-no on YouTube. You can't do that. So just be careful on your subtitles. Here's another situation. I've had this happen before with creators. Sometimes people who are not affiliated with the creator do their own subtitles. They subtitle your own video and you don't have much control or knowledge. Be careful about that. So I don't know if you have videos that have multiple translations, but you may want to check up on those things because that could get you in trouble. And just to kind of go through kind of a rehash of what are the penalties community guidelines. Let's put this back here. Community guidelines violations are different than copyright strikes. Excuse me. Community guidelines violations, there are actually 4 strikes and you're out. The first violation is a warning generally, and then you get 3 separate other violations, and then the third is a termination of your channel. So be very careful. I will say this, that community guidelines violations are different than copyright strikes in a lot of ways. One of those ways is that they also reserve the right to completely terminate your channel if you have a community guideline strike. So even though they tell you the first one's a warning, the subsequent 3 are you get 3 more. Just so you know, if they deem it an egregious violation, then they can terminate. They can certainly take down your video, but they can terminate your channel entirely. They can also do a thing which we've seen recently with creators that have come to me. What they'll do is they'll not terminate your channel, but they'll take down all your videos. And then what'll happen is they'll evidently, because I haven't seen this before, YouTube will perform a review process of your videos, and then every now and then trickle videos will come up on your channel. So they'll take all 100 videos down. 2 days pass, 10 videos come back up. 2 days, a week pass, 30 videos come back up. So it's quite an interesting thing that they do with community guidelines violations. Let's say hi to some people. Trent, Edgehog, 1671. What's up? What's up? And we got Tom Nash, always good to see you, Tom. Love your channel. If you guys really want up-to-date financial stuff and really provocative, exciting financial stuff. I know the first thing you know, a financial channel, just like a legal channel. But no, Tom is the best. There's no question that you're going to get, if you're in like Bitcoin and investments in stocks and, corporate conspiracies and controversies, go to Tom Nash's channel. He is super consistent on, I can almost say every day. So go to his channel. Be awesome. Leo Sketches. Hi, Ian. Good to see you, Leo. I've got a question coming out of Leo here. If I do a video inside a store, should they sign an agreement? I would require that. It's called a location agreement. You can get a sample. Actually, it's a template on my website. You can get on my website, iancorzine.com, a legal template, which is a location agreement. And I request that you guys get these location agreements whenever you go to a location, an indoor location. And the reason for it is, even if you're filming in there and there's it's almost an implied consent. They don't really stop you or say you can't do it. Later on in time, they can claim that they didn't give consent and that your video caused them harm, and then you owe them damages. So the best thing to do is to go to a location, talk to them and say, listen, can I film this video for 30 minutes in these locations? And could you sign this agreement so we have, so we understand our arrangement with one another? And then that way, that gives you the intellectual property rights that the store or the location may have had to your video, so you're really protected. If you want that agreement, go to iancorzine.com, go into the legal template section, you can get that. Sim Architects here, good to see you, Sim. All right, now we're gonna move on to more stuff that you can't say on YouTube. All right, and I always mess this up with the comments. I always leave them on the screen. All right, so move on to someone is dead. You can't say that. You can't say that on YouTube. No. What you can't say on YouTube, and you can't make a video about it, is you can't claim someone is dead when they're not. Now, I don't exactly know when this comes into play. I guess maybe in somewhere in the world, there are times when someone makes a video claiming someone has passed away, and so some political change or some uprising occurs. It's kind of an interesting rule, and again, oddly specific. I don't know if it refers to an actual incident in the past. I did research on it, and I couldn't find any notations about it in history. If you know of videos that claim someone is dead when they're not, let me know. Put that in the comment section. But just so you know, you can't make videos. You have to be accurate with your information about if someone passed away. So that's something you cannot say on YouTube. Miracle Cures. I'm going to take you, I think, to the actual section of the rules. What I try to do is not go to the rules because they're boring. So I don't want to bore you, but just let's do a context here. Any videos talking about certain substances as cures or remedies for diseases or any infirmities are not allowed on YouTube and will warrant you a community guideline strike. I will say that in this area, YouTube is particularly sensitive, And I've seen not many warnings, and then the person moves on with their channel. I've seen mostly channel terminations. So if you're in that area where you're doing health foods or fitness or whatever, be very careful if you're saying, hey, listen, I sell this protein powder, and maybe the protein powder is for building muscle, but you happen to say, hey, this protein powder cures everything. It's a remedy for everything. I took it one time when I got sick and I was good in one day. Be careful about those claims. But I do want to take you to, let's see how I do this, to the actual rule. I'll stop screen share, and then I will add a window. No, I won't. There we go. That, and that. Oh, we got misinformation. Okay, yeah, here we go. So let me cycle down to, why is this not showing? Oh, right here. Oh, I guess it doesn't show here. Well, anyway, here's the actual rule from the misinformation policy section of YouTube. It says here, promoting dangerous remedies or cures. Now, they always put dangerous. That's always a weird kind of wiggle room situation. As a lawyer, when I saw those type of adjectives describing things, I would always say, well, then I'm out of it, because I'll just say it's not dangerous and I'll prove it's not dangerous. But promoting dangerous remedies or cures, content that claims that harmful substances or treatments can have health benefits. Now, this is the thing that's really difficult. These are very broad words. Content that claims, can you guys see this? Yeah. Content that claims that harmful substances or treatments can have health benefits. What is a harmful substance or treatment, and what are health benefits? I mean, could you say that some treatment that's unorthodox has some health benefits? I mean, this is basically saying no. So just be careful on this. Let me put this off now, because this particular rule, it can be easily violated, and I've seen it time and time again with people who do do products. You got to be careful of your words. So a lot of creators come to me and they talk about, they're like, hey, listen, I sell these products, or I went through this disease and I want to educate people on this, and I took these herbs and all these things. I just tell them, one, disclaimer is great. You can do a disclaimer in the video itself, but I highly recommend that you do disclaimers in the description section itself. But then the other thing is, always talk about options, what I did, my experience with this is, in my opinion. Use those type of phrases when you talk about miracle cures or remedies for health conditions, because YouTube was really on that. And like I said before, if you violate one of these remedies, community guidelines, YouTube is apt to take you down entirely from your channel and not give you the whole warning process. So that is important. All right, let's move on to some questions. All right, we got Leo saying thank you. Let's move up to Piano Man, F Key Piano Man. Hi Ian, great to catch you live. Not sure if this question fits. If I'm doing a music cover video, can I use pics of other artists, i.e. Elton John? Thanks. So yeah, this is, I guess it kind of fits. The bottom line is, we're talking about stuff you can't say on YouTube, can't do on YouTube. So this could be fitting that. So I'm happy to answer any questions about YouTube or any of the social media platforms that you have. So cover videos, we talked about, many times, and the point of cover videos, the progression for those are, listen, they're generally going to be something that's going to be dangerous for you, because they're going to result in either a copyright claim or potentially a DMCA takedown notice, and eventually a takedown. So what you got to do with them is be careful. And so what I do if I were a cover artist is I would go onto YouTube and see what covers are out there. And then I might choose to do a cover that you already see up. That might help you in the process. Use the same keywords for SEO so that you're all kind of grouped together. And then what you do is you record the song. You do it in kind of an easy way, a kind of a draft manner, not do the whole set, the whole shebang. And then what you do is you upload that to YouTube, have it go through the copyright checks, and then make a decision. If it gets through without any copyright problems, you might want to put that up there on your channel. and it might be just fine. Just the warning is that even if it goes through the copyright checks on the upload process, that doesn't mean it's guaranteed to not get a copyright strike. That just means that at this point in time, YouTube AI has determined that your cover is okay. But again, it's YouTube AI, it's not human review. Later on in time, whoever is the owner of the copyrights to the song may at some time make a claim. Maybe they just were on vacation when you put it up. So just be aware. It's a, you know, I know it's great to get your work out there, but there are other platforms that are much more liberal on allowing covers than YouTube. So, you know, look at some other platforms too. Let's see, we got Simark Tech. They love to demonetize unauthorized users when they try to post news about, yeah, I know, they do. Yeah, that's the one thing to be aware of, guys. We talked about the someone is dead thing. You can't say someone is dead when they're not. Yeah, be careful. The newsjackers out there that really want to talk about cutting edge current topics, that can get you in trouble. And it can get you in trouble. Maybe you miss it. Maybe the first week there's no problems. But later on in time, YouTube could make that claim. Someone could come in and say, listen, there's a community guidelines violation for misinformation and you're taken down. So just be aware of it. That's all I ask. Oh, it says here, oh yeah, J-Station. Yoke Tesla, good to see you, Joke. J-Station faked the death of his girlfriend for views not long ago. I remember that. I think I saw that on Cody Co. So I think he joked about J-Station. Yeah, so if you go to, I don't even know if J-Station is up anymore, but if he's up, go to his channel and then watch some of his videos and then you'll understand what not to do on YouTube. Oh man, let's see here. That guy is crazy. Yeah. Link. Miracle, I think cures is a scam pretty much. Yeah, you'll see that often, and people get in trouble with it a lot too. The issue is not so much the scammers, the snake oil salesmen. Those people will always be prohibited and taken down. It really is you guys who are just trying to help people. You know, I see it all the time. I don't know. I mean, 5% of the people I work with are health and fitness, and they're very scared, and they should be, about making recommendations. And sometimes it's that they don't want to be sued. They don't want to have someone take their recommendation and then get injured and then sue them later on. But a lot of them are saying, listen, that's less of a concern. The main concern is staying on, because I talk about things that I think help me or maybe help my sister. And so when I say that, is that a recommendation of a dangerous remedy? I mean, who determines dangerous? YouTube does. Got some more off-topic stuff. But could you check out the following video? The Flash is insufferably inconsistent season 1 for the future. How did he not get a strike? I will check that out, Just Dude. I don't know. Can you drop links in the comments? That would help me. The other thing you could do is, Just Dude, you can always email me at info@iancorzine.com, info@iancorzine.com. That would help me if you could drop a link. That way I could find it very easy, but I'd like to check that out. ADHD, Alternatives Homestead. See, here we go. What are your thoughts on the reaction channels out there? Full music videos of well-known, I know. I think that's absolutely crazy. I see it all the time, ADHD. The analogy I always bring up is the speeding analogy. You know, you're driving along 65 miles an hour and you see someone cruise by 80 miles an hour and you go, how in the world can he do that and I can't? And the answer is he's going to get caught. And I think that really is the rule. You know, giving you some broader context, I will say, you know, we started out in this culture of video consumption where people were putting up anything they wanted to. They were disregarding copyrights right and left. And eventually the copyright holders got mad at YouTube and said, I'm going to pull advertising if you don't stop this, blah, 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 blah. They began to do that. But the little secret between you and me is that, you know, YouTube makes a lot of money on copyrighted content. Okay? Let me just say it one more time. YouTube makes a lot of money on copyrighted content. All right? So yes, they want to protect the copyright holders. Yes, they want to enforce the rules. That's what they say. But you know what ends up happening, and you'll see a lot of, is if videos go viral. If you know, it's eventually taken down, they can cover their butt. And then the other thing is there's an exception on YouTube for the up and ups. I mean, I was watching a David Dobrik video the other day, one of the best creators ever as far as just putting together provocative content. and he's playing copyrighted stuff right and left. I don't know if now that David is so big that he has the means to license the music, but I don't know. A lot of it gets by YouTube, and 10 million views later, there's no problem. So yeah, I will. It's a very difficult problem, and I wish I could stop it, but it exists. We got Jazz Doctor. It's rare occasions we use content under fair use for educational purposes. How long does it take for a strike to come down if you submit a counter notification? Is it 10 days? Yeah, the actual formal rule is 10 to 14 days. I don't exactly know why there's a discrepancy. Nowhere in intellectual property law am I aware of that kind of range. But yes, so give you some context. If you get a DMCA takedown notice, it results in a strike. You file on YouTube a counter notification saying, listen, this is wrong. I should not be getting a strike. This is clearly fair use. And then you explain to them why. If you ever need help on this, go to my channel. I have lots of videos on fair use and how to do counter notifications. If you need more help, you can always come to me personally, schedule a time to meet with me for an online consult on my website, iancorzine.com. But anyway, putting that aside for a moment, you put together your counter notification, and then it is accepted, and nothing happens for 10 to 14 days. Then YouTube, under the law, is obligated to put that video back up. So yes, that is the rule. I'm hoping that you had a situation where your video got put back up. Jazz Doctor in Demand doing educational content, clearly a fair use, clearly should be allowed, not only under local government rules, but also under YouTube rules. Anthony Goodley, let's say an old classic song like Furelise by Beethoven, that's in public domain. Is the modern day performance of said song by artist XYZ still copyrighted? Yes, it is. Now, that person's copyrights don't extend to the actual composition of the older song, but they do stem to the arrangement, So our art, even our fair use art, is copyrightable. You can get a registered, Andy Warhol doing paintings of Campbell soup cans can get a copyright to his art. So yes, you can recopyright and recopyright. Aw, Jazz Doctor says, love your thumbnail. We are a nonprofit. Well, good. Keep doing good out there. Keep teaching. I would assume jazz. So that's something that everyone needs to know more about. Good for you. We got to get back to our subject matter. I always have to stay like organized. I'm one of those weirdo guys. So let's switch it up. So miracle cures you can't talk about on YouTube. Can't do it. All right. Protests. This is the other one that's kind of interesting. Not the best picture in the world, but let's put it up a little bit bigger. So YouTube says that you can't do images or video of a protest and say that's happening now when it really happened earlier on in time. So that's something that to know that you can't do. I would say be careful on that. It reminds me of the police officer pulling you over for the broken taillight. The police officer's intent in that hypothetical is to pull you over for something that he thinks is a bigger crime. But he uses the taillight as a pretext. Same thing with these protest situations. If you get into this content about protests, be careful, because sometimes you're talking about a protest maybe that happened 3 days, maybe a week ago. And so you're putting footage on, and you're speaking loosely, and YouTube comes at it and says, listen, I don't want whatever content you're espousing to go out to the public. So I'm going to use this community guideline, which says that you can't put protest type content on the channel and say it's taking place now when it took place earlier. All right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it could be a pretext to take down your video. And also, this really constitutes an egregious violation and could be a reason they take down your video immediately and or take down your channel immediately. So remember, when you're getting into this protest stuff, like we're all in this newsjacking type of content that's going on out there. And this applies to live streams too, all right? Be careful, be very articulate with your words, because it could be an excuse to take down your video and your channel. Oh man, this one's funny. Yeah, so this one is, so I want to show you the rule because I think I can do it. Oh geez, I tell you, sometimes it's crazy here. Let me just get the actual rule. Oh yeah, US presidential. All right, so and I will put this on the screen in a minute, but overall, the rule is that you can't make certain claims about the US presidential election in your videos. And I have to be more specific because it's pretty funny. So let's see, I'll stop the share and then I will add the share to this Chrome tab, which is election misinformation, share. All right, can you see that? You cannot see that. Okay, yeah, I think you can see that. All right, so, and the reason, this is what I was talking about in the beginning of our live stream about some things are so oddly specific that you can't say on YouTube. So if you look close to the screen here, and I'm sorry, I guess I could try to make it a little bit bigger. That didn't do it. All right, it says here, US presidential election integrity. And again, this is a reminder, the following types of content are not allowed on YouTube. This isn't a complete list. So that's always a good one too, by the way. Here's all the rules. You can't do this, but you can't do more. We're just not going to put it down. All right, so US presidential election integrity. Claims that a candidate only won a swing state in the US 2020 presidential election due to voting machine glitches that changed the votes. I wonder if that refers to President Trump. I don't know. Claims that dead people voted in numbers that changed the outcome of the US 2016 presidential election. You can't make a video about that particular specific subject. And if you do, you're going to get a community guidelines violation. Claims that fake ballots were dumped to give one candidate enough votes to win a state in a past US presidential election. So those are very specific things you cannot do. Fake ballots, can't talk about fake ballots, just can't do it, all right? And then the other thing that's always interesting is they've done this in a number of these misinformation guidelines. It says, we may allow content that violates the US presidential election integrity policy noted on this page if the content includes additional context in the video, audio, title, description. This is not a free pass to promote misinformation. And then I like this one too. The additional content may include countervailing views, or if the purpose of the content is to condemn, dispute, or satirize misinformation that violates our policies. So you can't say misinformation that they've determined that's here, but you can make fun of it. You can make fun of misinformation. You can condemn misinformation. So you can talk about misinformation for the purposes of condemning it, and you can dispute it. So that's the little loophole I was going to talk about, is disputing misinformation. If you present a neutral, objective analysis about alleged misinformation topics that we're talking about today, but you create the dispute. So you say, some people say the US election was rigged for these reasons. Other people say it was not for these reasons. Then arguably you can get out of a community guidelines violation. So just remember, when you're doing this kind of content that talks about current events that are inflammatory, just make sure you present on both sides and you create a dispute. And then that way, later on when you're arguing, that there should be no community guidelines violation, that you could say, listen, the rule says it right there. If I'm presenting dispute type content regarding misinformation subjects, I'm good. So that's something for you guys to know. All right, so let me switch it up to this one. Let's stop share. I wish there was a way on StreamYard to have multiple screens shareable. That would be good. All right, so we're moving on to our next subject so we can get off this, this picture. Oh yes, now we're moving into more sensitive content, guys. So I'm gonna talk about this because I do not want a card below this video. I'm gonna talk about sickness, and I think you know what I mean. So one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting, if you drill down deep into the sickness part of this misinformation, and that's the big one. Let me see if I can pull it up on the screen here. I mean, it's chock full of fun things to look at. Let's see if I get to the examples here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here we go. If you go into the sickness portion of the misinformation rules, you're going to see lots of interesting stuff. So a good first example of what you cannot do is you cannot say that a cure to the sickness is holding your breath. Believe it or not, that is a rule in YouTube's misinformation community guidelines. Says you cannot make a video that says that if you hold your breath, that you will be cured. All right. Interesting. Oddly specific. All right. And what I'm going to do is go through some of the highlights, and then we'll go into some of the details here. You cannot make a video which says that if you eat Asian food, you will be cured of the sickness. Just so you know, can't make a video about that. If you do, you're going to get a community guidelines violation, and your channel may be in jeopardy. Okay. You cannot, what is, this one is about the, yeah, I guess you cannot make a video about fireworks as a means, like in other words, if you shoot off fireworks, that will be a remedy for the sickness. Okay. So no fireworks videos. If you're a person that makes fireworks videos, just be aware of this rule, because maybe you accidentally, through a sip of the tongue, will say that this would cure a sickness. All right. And then the other one you can't do, so we're really clear, is that you cannot say that if you get a shot that there are microchips in the shot. Can't do that. So if you're making a video, you can't make one about getting a shot and having a microchip in the shot. So those are just some of the things that you should be aware of. Now we're going to go into more detail on the sickness, because I almost think that a main reason why there are misinformation community guidelines has to do with the sickness thing. There is a definite agenda there. So we will get into more of the details, because there's even more funny stuff that you see in the rules. But let's move on here to some questions. Ian Westby says, so do these rules apply to liberals and progressives too, or just conservatives? You know, having spent time, I mean, I've spent so much time on the community guidelines in general, but going through these misinformation community guidelines, it is funny that there wouldn't be something like that. They're so specific. I wonder who is the drafter of these things. You would think that they would at least try to, it sounds crazy, but hide their motives, try to be a little bit more broad-based, you know? But no, they're like, dude, you cannot talk about fake election ballots in the 2016 election on a Saturday. I mean, it's almost that specific. So it is kind of funny. Yeah, exactly. I like Just Dude's comment up here. Where did it say? Oh, geez, now I lost it all. Ah! Yeah, as I went through some of these rules, it's like, will do. All right. Is there an appeal process for termination? Yes, there is, sometimes. Total lawyer answer, maybe. Under the rules, you can appeal a termination for community guidelines violations. I can't say that. And I've seen it successfully done many times. And I will say this, having done it many times with creators, it is of the easier ways to get your channel back. A lot of these community guidelines, although specific, are actually to the benefit of us creators because they're so specific. And one of the areas we talked about just a few minutes ago was the dispute. If you provide a dispute when you're discussing these sensitive misinformation topics, then that's one way to get out of it. So just remember that understanding these rules and kind of appreciating their specificity is good for us. If they're broader based, then we're really screwed, because then it's like, you can't talk about, cheetahs. Then you're really screwed, right? Because any content that has a cheetah in it, you're done. But if it says you can't talk about cheetahs in Africa, blah, 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 then at least there's wiggle room that we can get out of it. So yes, there is appeals process. Yes, you can get through it. I've been very successful in getting channels reinstated when it comes to community guidelines violations, because I just look at the rules and I say, here's the content. It doesn't specifically violate this rule. So yeah. Ninja Artist says, misinformation meaning some things Susan doesn't like. I think that's exactly right. I really do. I think it's almost like Susan drafted these herself. You know, she was kind of going through in her head. She's brainstorming. Okay, what do I not want on the platform? Not what I don't like. What are my political beliefs? And then she just wrote them down on a Notion document and then sent it to her lawyers. It's like, could you make this happen? Because you'll see lots of spelling errors and grammatical errors and stuff. Let's see. We got ADHD Alternatives Homestead. If I were an artist, while it is flattering, Facebook and the creator are making a lot of money on another achievement. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Everyone knows that Facebook and YouTube and everybody are making tons of money on our content. We're the product. We consume and we create. That's good. So if you go into it knowing that, awesome. You know the game, and so that way you understand that you got to comply with the rules. Otherwise, you lose the ability to make your content. A lot of creators right now are migrating to different platforms. I am not necessarily against that. I think that it makes sense to go where you're appreciated. Kim Leeming says, last week, I think you mentioned business insurance when we talked about LLCs. What type of insurance, if any, is needed for a YouTube channel? Commercial general liability coverage. And then you have additional riders that come with that. And that could be cyber liability exclusions. It just depends. All the different insurance companies, especially when it comes to coverage for online stuff, they change their terms. So generally, it's called a cyber liability endorsement. And that protects you from situations where you release sensitive information out there and then someone is harmed. You know, you're hacked, there's a leak, and then that insurance comes in to pay for it. I will say this, having litigated computer insurance coverage in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, it is a new frontier. It shouldn't be. We've been having the internet since 1990, or I guess the 80s technically, but for a long time, 31 years. But it's very antiquated as far as the coverage goes. So when you do buy this coverage, be aware, go through it in detail. If you have questions, you can always ask them to me at iancorsign.com. But yeah, cyber liability coverage, commercial general liability. If you have a premises, then you need the business insurance portion of it, business property insurance, excuse me. So let's say you have a studio. You'll need that addition. It's not too much money, especially if you talk to your broker and to explain what the liabilities are. Really, their defamation is one of the liabilities. There's some copyright potential liability. There's premises if you have guests and people coming to your studio doing videos. So there's limited liabilities. And I've seen policies range from $500 to $2,500. I mean, you can get very expensive coverage. But I do advise you getting business insurance, commercial general liability insurance with the various riders. And the reason for that is that it's the first line of defense. If you ever were to get sued, it's great that you have your assets for your business in an LLC, but that's your first line. That does this. It would pay for your lawyers to defend you in an action, and then it would indemnify you for having to pay a judgment or having to settle the case. And I got to tell you, just having that, what they call the duty to defend for your insurance, is really valuable, because if there's an obligation to defend you, cases these days take between 1 and 3 years, sometimes 4 years to go through the courts. So that's a lot of money the insurance company has to pay for your counsel. So oftentimes they're willing to take some of that money and settle with it rather than pay attorneys to defend you. So you just got to lock in that duty to defend first before you go through litigation. So highly recommend it. If you need some recommendations, it depends upon where you're located. I always advise you to go to an insurance broker in your region, because they know the insurance the best. They can get the best deals. But if I can ever help in making recommendations, I certainly will. But yeah, totally advocate business insurance. Oh, you sent me the link in the contact form. Thanks, Just Dude. All right, we got Leo Sketches. Can we still find your previous live streams? They are not showing on your channel. You know, I generally take them off the channel because there's a number of reasons. One is sometimes I go into topics I've already gone through. Sometimes I, want to make sure that it's an exclusive kind of viewing. But if you have specific ones you want to check out, please let me know. They're all unlisted, so I can provide those. Or what I might do, if there's a demand, I can just create a playlist with all the old live streams. Maybe I'll just do that, and then it just be like live stream playlist, and you can look at it. Rabs Bunny. Rabbit assistant. I've never heard of a rabbit assistant, but I'd love to meet someone. Can you explain the appeal process for terminated channels? Yeah, generally the appeal process is you're notified via email of the termination of your channel. It also appears in your creator studio, and there's a couple ways you can respond. One is you can go into the creator chat and talk to people that way. Sometimes you get more results that way because there's human operators standing by. I will say larger channels sometimes get better service on the chat. And then, but most people go through the email, and then there's a link, and it changes from time to time. I've seen many different versions of this email, but you have the ability to appeal that termination. And generally there is a online form or a reply email where you're able to respond with attachments. And that includes not only PDF documents, but also video attachments. I've worked with creators where we've actually put together compilation reels and then uploaded those as an appeal where we say, no, we didn't violate, I'll put together the violation on front, and then we'll play the tape of the alleged violation, and we'll kind of make our case, almost like a court case, through a video. That works sometimes. But then YouTube considers that, and I've seen, it's taking longer these days, but 10 days generally they consider the appeal, and then they make their decision. And then there's an additional opportunity to appeal after that. I've gone through, I think, 3 different appeals for a community guidelines violation termination. That's a lot of words. To be able to get that channel reinstated. So I always say never give up. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. But this brings me to another topic, and that is, this is real. These channel terminations are happening on a daily basis. Thousands of channels are being terminated, and they're not just bot channels. They're actually real creators out there like you, like me, trying to do good in the world, trying to bring value to the world, and they're getting terminated. So what does that mean? That just means appreciate the context. Social media is huge. There are so many platforms. There are so many different routes to getting your message out. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Pick the platforms that you think have the best longevity for your content, and continue consistently to make content. 1 to 2 posts per social media outlet. So if you're making a video on a misinformation topic, all right, be aware that YouTube's going to be sensitive to that. But also make sure that you draft a sort of a script that you can use as a blog post for a Substack, or anything, for Facebook, whatever it is. Make sure your content is multifaceted so your message continues to get out there despite the fact that the video is taken down, or worst case, your channel is terminated. Do not be platform agnostic. And remember that, and I really think that you all need to have great websites, because at least that you have the most control over your website. It is harder for that website to be taken down, at least the present. And I know there's lots of different opportunities for OnlyFans and Patreon, those pay sites, but you got to remember, those people are more liberal, looser on their content, but they still can take you down. They still can be pressured down. And also, politicians out there, big corporations, can take those platforms down entirely. So website is the safest. Create your website, and then from that, spawn content to the different platforms to get your message out. And if you get taken down, you don't have to cry. You're like, okay, well, that's too bad, but I'll move on to the next one. ADHD says business insurance, good idea. I agree. If you have officers and directors, you can create a corporation to protect individuals. Yeah, officers and directors, D&O coverage, directors and officers. Coverage is good. It generally doesn't apply to single member LLCs. It would be a situation where you have shareholders and people making decisions, like executive officers making decisions, and the shareholders not liking those. But D&O could be a rider to your CGL policy, no question. Generic is here, and I love Generic's name. This is Generic. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Since health is a tricky topic, can you recommend some equally profitable, low-risk? Oh, I love this. Is a great question. Low-risk niches. That is an awesome question. I think low-risk niches, for the most part, are in trending. I think that if you go to the trending section of YouTube and you look at the videos that are blowing up, I think you're going to find the ones that are low risk. I think low risk is tech. is any consumer video. So anything where you're encouraging people to use product, to consume. I think YouTube wants you to consume. So, and I think they're moving closer to the whole shopping component of Instagram. I'm sure I know they will. They've said they're going to have a situation where you can click in the video screen on a product and it's going to be able to show you where to buy it. So yeah, I mean, product reviews, anything consumerism is huge. I think you couldn't go wrong. I honestly don't think. And it's interesting, a lot of smaller channels that do product reviews, I've heard get a lot of attention from YouTube corporate right up front. So, when you get 100,000 subscribers, you're supposed to have a YouTube, representative contact you. I've heard of channels that have 20,000 subscribers, but they have good engagement in their product reviews, and they get contacted by YouTube saying, what can we do to help? How can we sell you more? Blah, blah, blah. So consumerism, I think those videos that are viral, ones where there's pranks, where there's challenges, where there's goofiness, those are obviously great. Just, there are prank community guidelines. What we can talk about on another live on those ones, but those are really good as far as not having problems with copyright. Just in general how-tos, I think you're not going to have problems with so long as you stick to mainstream topics. You could go there, you could do news topics, newsjacking, but you just have to stick to the mainstream. You just have to see what the mainstream is reporting. Go to the New York Times and then see what they're reporting and then keep it consistent with them. Those are safe topics. But I think consumerism is where if I were to start a channel right now, a different channel, I would talk about, and not want to have any problems with copyright or community guidelines, I would do some sort of product review channel. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Well, Jeremy Bent is here. Or Brent, excuse me. Jeremy, good to see you. I am sure that there are hundreds of videos on YouTube talking about the dead voting in the 2016 election. I know. They're against the rules. They're against the rules. You can't do it. And you are the person that will get caught. Isn't that weird? We got Kim Leaning saying, can sound effects from YouTube Shorts library be used in long form content? That's a really good question. The answer is yes, I believe. I don't think there's a specific rule on that now, but YouTube AI is attuned to allow your videos to be used in YouTube Shorts. So what I mean by that is that if you were to use other audio, arguably, YouTube AI is not going to distinguish between your long form versus your short form. Obviously, the safest is to use sound effects from long form videos in your short videos. But I don't think you're going to run into problems if you use those sound effects in more long form. It seems weird that YouTube would distinguish between a minute video and a minute 15-second video. A minute being a YouTube short and a minute 15 being a long form video. So there's no rule on it, but that's what I believe. Big channels unite. Yes, unite. Always. Oh, yeah. That's a good, Leah, thank you so much. Yeah, OBS. I know OBS is awesome. And I really do like it. I like how you can make your own videos to do recordings. It's very easy. It's just that it's very complicated for a laptop. And I'm using a laptop right now because I don't have my station all set up right now. I'm still in the process of moving. Today's the final day. I'm going to do the final push to move. And so I'm using a laptop and it's just too loud. Exploring Israel says, how can I be more aware when it comes to these laws? Well, there's a lot of things. One is you can watch my videos where I try to go through and provide the most relevant, the stuff that you'll use the most day to day on my YouTube channel. So that's number one. And then the other thing is you could just type in YouTube community guidelines and it'll pop up and you can go through. The rules are fairly non-legalistic, so you can understand them. You have a cup of coffee because they're long and they're boring, but you can do it. Yeah, Anthony Goodley, I'm down with the sickness. That is good. I like that. Who is that band? I love that song. I love the album cover from that song. So speaking of that, let's get to the sickness because I do want to do another share because it's kind of interesting when you start talking about sickness stuff. I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to change it to Chrome policies. Boom. Okay. All right. So we'll move into this portion. Okay. So let me just make sure we are on screen with this. Okay. Yeah. So which one is it? Can you see this? This is embarrassing. Is it on the screen? Oh, sorry guys. It's a little bit of a technical difficulty here. And I'll take this comment down too. Share screen. There we go. Now that should be up. Okay. So let's go through the sickness. If you're down with the sickness. And I want to go down to this. I mean, there's so much that you can't talk about. This would be 100 things you can't talk about on YouTube. But I want to take you down to the examples section here. And we'll just talk about various things that you cannot say on YouTube related to the sickness. You can't deny that it exists. Okay? Can't deny it. Can't say that people haven't passed away as a result. Can't say that anything is a guaranteed prevention. So that's an interesting one. That seems a little counter mainstream, but you can't say that that if you take something that it's a guaranteed prevention for the sickness. Interesting, they're really into this. You can't talk about this. And this is in multiple parts of the community guidelines. You can't talk about the specific thing, which starts with hydrox. Can't do that. And then this is an interesting thing. You can't say this MMS, miracle mineral solution, is a treatment. And I looked up that. I never even heard of that, but it's just a solution of chemicals that don't work, I guess. This one's interesting. You can't say that certain people, due to their race or nationality, are immune from the sickness. That's always weird. And this is the one we talked about earlier. If you avoid Asian food, that you won't get the sickness. Setting off fireworks can clean the air of the virus. So you cannot do that. We talked about that one. Can't talk about 4P as causing the sickness. I'm really excited to know if I'm still going to get a card on this video, even though I'm trying to be so veiled. You can't say that distancing and isolation are not effective. Cannot say that on your videos. If you do, you will probably get a community guidelines violation. Let's see this one. I think there's some more that are kind of interesting. Yeah, we talked about the microchip. Oh, this one's interesting. This one is actually maybe contrary to current thought. And that's one thing we'll talk about. Some of these rules are dated. It says claims that achieving herd immunity through natural infection is safer than getting a shot. So that's interesting because there's new studies out from Israel right now, which maybe put that in doubt. Some people say this, some people say that. See, using a dispute. So I don't get a community guidelines violation for talking about YouTube's own community guidelines. Yeah, this one's anyway. Claims that children cannot contract the sickness. You can't say that. Now, it does say this, and this is the interesting, I love, this is one I think I pointed out, or I figured out here. So in every other context of the YouTube community guidelines, the bottom line, it says that if you violate the community guidelines for talking about this subject, you will get a warning and no penalty to your channel, all right? Every other context of community guidelines violations. So they're just saying, listen, if you don't talk about the dispute about this particular misinformation topic, then you're going to get a warning, and it's not going to be a consequence. Just say, hey, stop doing this, all right? But when it comes to the sickness misinformation, it says, if your content violates these policies, we'll remove the content and send you an email to let you know. If this is your first time violating our community guidelines, you'll likely get a warning and no penalty to your channel. They added likely to the sickness misinformation community guidelines. So what does that mean? It means it's intentional because it doesn't appear anywhere else. Someone had to say, maybe, you're likely, you're probably. But what that also does is it gives YouTube the room to completely take down the video and take down your channel. Basically, this abrogates all the different rules that, I mean, look at all these different sickness misinformation rules. All of them are abrogated by this final sentence right here, which talks about the fact that you'll likely get a warning. Well, maybe not. So they are very, this is the most sensitive part of YouTube right now. They're very sensitive to this discussion. So if you go into this in your videos, which is so understandable because it is the elephant in the room. I mean, almost every daily conversation you walk in, you meet someone, it's weird if you don't talk about it, right? So it's so interesting that there are so many limitations on your YouTube content concerning the most pivotal topic that we have to discuss. And so be very careful. I mean, maybe like this is one of those opportunities for you to go to a different platform to talk about sickness type content. Let's see, let's move on to some topics. Yeah, I love, this is good. Anthony's comment, this is the best comment of the day. Sings, I'm down with the sickness. That is very, very funny. I think it's awesome. I like Jeremy Brent, laugh out loud. You can cure YouTube by pressing Alt F4. That should be your own community guideline. Solo Napian. Anyway, will these new G lines be the end of YouTube? Well, I mean, I don't know if they're the end of YouTube. YouTube's such a powerful business because they're owned by Google. I do think that, we've said this in other live streams, YouTube is on its way of just mainstreaming the heck out of it, right? They're getting more and more money from larger and larger corporations, and they're going the route of the big networks, NBC, maybe even Netflix, those kinds of things. So I do think that over time, content like ours probably will be pushed aside. It already is. It's already a minimal portion that's consumed on YouTube as we speak. So that doesn't mean for us to despair. It just means that we can't put all our eggs in the YouTube basket. We've got to have a good website. We've got to have good presence on the other platforms. And also, think about putting your content behind paywalls. It's getting more and more common for people to say, listen, I spent a lot of time on this newsletter. I want to put it on Substack, and you have to pay $2.99 a month to access it. People are getting more and more familiar with that concept. And if you work really hard on your content, you may want to do that. So what if you only have 100 people signed up? That's a lot of money. That can add up to a lot of money. And it may be a lot more than YouTube AdSense revenue. So think about the paywall thing, the Patreons, the Substacks, those kinds of things. Oh, I didn't get that. He is down with the sickness? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, Mr. Goodley. Oh, here we go. We got a Gramsy Life. Good to see you, Gramsy Life. Hello, YouTube just suggested you, so hello. I just saw. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'd love for you to join us more. Julie's here. Thanks for your info. Very valuable. Hope to start a channel. So thank you. Well, Julie, do a channel. I encourage everyone out there who doesn't have a channel right now to start a channel. And it could be a YouTube channel, or it could be some other channel or account. Get out there. Get your value out there. We need you. Why is it certain YouTubers can cuss and others can't? Because it's a double standard. There's a lot of big-time YouTubers out there that get away with a lot of swearing. I will say that for the rest of us, you can swear in your YouTube videos. I would encourage you to use the less sensitive type swear words, and you can use them later on in your video. Do not start your video using the F word. That's not a good way. YouTube will highlight that. They'll make it age restricted. They will not make it discoverable, and then your video will not do as well. So you can do it. Oh, disturbed. Yes, thanks ADHD. Disturbed. That's right. It's very apropos. Exactly. Oh man. Oh, Goodly, I haven't been tested, but I'm pretty sure I do have the sickness right now. I think I'm starting to get better on my own. Well, listen, Anthony, I'm so sorry. I thought you were making a joke. I'm so sorry you're down with the sickness. And I hope you get well very, very fast. Higher power is here. I hate these new rules. They make no sense. Yeah, they kind of don't. And they're also indicating to us that there's going to be more of these rules coming, right? If they're getting super specific, you can't, like I said, you can't talk about fake ballots in the 2016 election. What's going to happen in the future? It's really going to be hard for a creator like you to create great content without having, reviewed thousands of pages of YouTube rules. So if you ever need help, always come to iancorstein.com. Either you can find a video there or on my YouTube channel, or you can also see my blogs. I write a lot of blogs about all these different rules, how they impact society. And so you can kind of get it's almost like a frequently asked question for rules. It says here, Esteban Neves, there's a couple of things that they don't want people to promote. It looks like they have a purpose. Yes. I'm not going to use that word, but yes, a lot of people get banned by talking about various remedies and exercising their free speech rights. So that's true. The reason for 6 feet of apartness is it's harder to locate the thing being located. Isn't it funny? It's almost kind of fun that they do this, because now it requires that we that we talk in code, and it's cool. It's like our own little code for our club here. ADHD says the rules send so shit. Ian, you have a lot with these live streamings. Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm laughing out loud. Leo and I are both laughing out loud. Dickie's Discord dailies. Oh man, it's live. Dickie's, it's awesome you're doing Discord dailies. That sounds cool. Yes, Chris says, welcome to communism. Yeah, I think we're allowed to say that term. I think there might be a card that pops up below. All right, we got a question from Corpse is the best boy. Corpse is the best boy. I make compilation videos of certain non-gameplay moments of a famous gamer YouTuber, but I always get a manually claimed copyright claim a few hours later when I publish them. Well, the reason why you do that is because you said it's a famous, yeah. The reason why you do that is because the gamer is with an MCN or a management company that's set up to prevent other creators to use their content. And so through AI, they're always just on it. And that's why that's happening. You're going to find that more and more. These very famous gamers, these very famous YouTubers have so many resources at their disposal, so much management, that if you start to be able to take their content, make fun with it, there's going to be a problem. They want to control their image. And these MCNs are all over the place with claiming content. I mean, it's getting faster and faster and faster. So that's what's happening there. What do you do? I always say this: be creative in your derivative content. Excuse me. So what that means is you can still talk about this famous YouTuber, get drawings done on Fiverr of this famous YouTuber. Use royalty-free footage of gameplay that elicits the image for this famous gamer. So you get some Fortnite footage. Let's say this guy's playing Fortnite, and even though it's not his footage, you're still talking about Fortnite and how he plays or whatever you're talking about. So get creative. Don't just take clips from the famous game player and then put them on your channel. You know what? I think you can get away with shorter clips. Maybe you just need an image of the famous game player that you put on the screen for 2 seconds. Maybe you just put together 2 to 5 second video game clips from his channel, but they're really, really quick. Maybe you mute the audio. Maybe you don't need the audio, right? Maybe you can describe what he's saying in the video, understanding that YouTube AI is most sensitive to audio. So whenever you want to borrow a clip, just make sure you think about the fact that if you mute the audio, will that impact your video? So that's how to get around that. Can I complain about him to the YouTube support claim? You can, but most of those people are bulletproof. And there's also arguably some violations. I mean, honestly, the guy has created copyrighted content. He's got an implied license from the video game company or developer that the game he's playing. So it's going to be hard. I mean, I'd love to look at your content and give you an actual specific opinion. And if you guys ever want that, if you guys want me to look at your content specifically, take some time out of my day, just remember you can always set a consult time with me at my website, iancorzine.com. Just go to the upper right-hand portion, click on schedule, and then that will allow you to get on my calendar and we can go through it. So I like these mistakes. I know it's long. All right, guys. Well, this has been a discussion of the 10 things that you cannot say on YouTube. We've gone through some of the kind of the funnier rules. We also went into some of the specifics. What's the context? When it comes to election stuff, when it comes to cures, when it comes to kind of big events in life, whether it be a protest or whether it be someone's passing, or when it comes to the biggest event, the thing that's the elephant in the room, we've talked about the sickness. Be very careful in your content. Be very careful. YouTube could be analogized to the cop pulling you over for the broken taillight. If you go into these areas, YouTube could use it as an excuse to take down your videos and take down your channel. I don't want that to happen. That's why I do what I do. I try to keep you guys as free and as creative as all possible by going through these rules. So, you know, this stuff is absolutely real. And it is something that we need to be aware of, because if you're not, again, your videos or your channel can be taken down. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next Saturday, where I'll be coming from my new place. So anyway, talk to you later.